and had a Moodle-based cloud system, and we said, okay, here is a learning management system, SMS alerts, etc. for school, so that we can maybe have an education kind of a thing. This Bulan bus was used so that, you know, it gets parked in front of every school, so every other day the van gets parked for about 20 minutes or half an hour. Jab tak wo driver chai piyega, tab tak jo hai, it gets synced with the system which is out there. No live internet, still, you know, it works on a delayed torrent kind of a system, etc. So we did that. I said maybe this is going to make a change. So pilot implementation for class 5 curriculum has been done. This is the status of this. In about 10 schools has been done. Maiman community schools, so the Maiman community schools picked up with an NGO. We collected the data and usability tests suggested that there is a strong acceptance for that, and the cost comes to about 15,000 rupees per student. That's a very nominal kind of a cost which comes. So this is the second kind of a thing. Then I said, okay, let me do something else. So worked on the women employment. Now you see, my own projects had a technology perspective, and I wanted to go beyond that, so that can I make a change in the society or not? So I went into the women employment through technology. So we went to the women employment through technology, collected the data of some, women who basically are the ones who slum areas mein rehti hain, ya, you know, the poor areas, etc. They know how to cook. They can cook very good dishes, lekin unke paas jo hai wasail nahi hai. So we collected the data of that through my students. Obviously, you get free resources in the universities through the students, etc. We collected that, and we tried to make the income from them. So individuals seeking hygienic food, etc. At the Sharai Faisal and the nearby areas at Karachi, and we provided them a web platform so that they can do it. Now we're doing it through SMS, etc. So register the menu items, you push the menu items, receive orders from registered clients, and the payment the confirmation takes place. So then delivery takes place. So we had the channel that was in the middle in this whole supply chain model. The women were empowered with that, with a 70-30% kind of a payment model. It worked. The status of family cooking project is this, that I've kind of given it to the Aurat Foundation, ko maine de diya hai now, and the Aurat Foundation is now working on it. So NGOs on women entrepreneurship were approached, and recently I say we gave it to the Aurat Foundation, और उसको ये project दे दिया हमने. So this has been done also. But then this is a proof of concept. So then I said, now this brings me to the problem, that there are certain tough problems which we have to solve. So I started focusing on what are the tough problems which we should solve at my research center in ubiquitous computing. And I came to this conclusion, I know now the reason. The jinn ko jana pehle nahi aata hai, to phir usko back karna padta hai, phir aa jata hai. Oh, that was late. Probably. So the problems which I thought, the big giant problem come in the area of knowledge management. The next area is the area of sensing environments. These are the areas which I started focusing. And then the next area, social interactions, modeling and representations, and the governance. So these were the 5 areas in which I said I'm going to focus more on. The more I try to focus on, the more I see that there is a huge diversity in each of these areas. In the knowledge management area, and these are all the PhDs which have been produced. All of these are PhDs. So we started working on the multimodal and multilingual language representations. I said, okay, the biggest problem is probably with us is this, that we probably can't understand the language of others. So language is probably the problem. So I started working on multilingual interfaces and multilingual representations of the knowledge. And this resulted in a Sindhi ko humne pehle kiya, and Dr. Noor Ahmed Shaikh, who is the Pro-Vice Chancellor at Shah Abdul Latif University, he got a PhD on this in this area. Then we went into another problem. The problem is, whose data are we talking about? Whose data is this? Can we really understand the context in the data? Can we know which is the original data and where this data is coming from? So trying to understand the context, trying to understand the semantics of the web pages, etc. That's where we started focusing. And Dr. Imran Jami, who is now the associate professor at Muhammad Ali Jinnah University, he got a PhD in this area. We then said, we need to have a representation of the language. The way we talk, the language representation is extremely important. So we thought that there is a semantic aspect which is required. So we developed a tool which is out there in the open source community. And this tool was developed as a part of the researches of many students, etc., the PhDs and the masters, etc., as a byproduct. And we developed an ontological representation of a language. We call this the Toad, and it is out there, and we threw it, and the people are working on this kind of a thing as well. Then we said that another biggest problem is the teaching and learning problem. A teacher has many roles. There is a famous Pope theory which is out there. A teacher has many roles in which teacher performs. Teacher tries to give you a supportive role. Teacher at times, like leadership, there are various kinds of roles, etc. So there are roles of teachers as well, supportive role, and he is giving the knowledge, and he's trying to encourage, he's a motivator, etc. So at least we identified, out of the 16, we grouped it into 4 teaching styles. And we said that there are types of students as well. There are different kinds of students as well which are out there. So we grouped the students also because there are certain students जो बेचारे कहते यार समझ में नहीं आ रहा तब तक के साथ वाला दोस्त ना बैठा हो. So unless there is no friend around, so they don't tend to understand. And sir वो फिर से बताएं, and kind of students also. And there are students who would always say, sir I know it, probably like me, and yet they don't know. And then there are students who would try to run away from mathematics unless Professor Siddiqui jaisa na aa jaye. Wo aa jayega to theek hai, otherwise people would try to learn from language, mathematics, philosophies, etc. kind of a thing. So there are various kinds of teaching and learning theories which are out there, famous theories of social scientists and educationists. And we said, and I started working, and this is my challenging problem which comes every time in one of my PhD qualified exam. Can we have a virtual teacher? Is there someone who can model me probably? And can I have a life after I die? Obviously, मेरी तो जिंदगी खबर में होगी, लेकिन क्या ये हो सकता है कि एक टीचर हमेशा जिंदा रहे? Is it possible to model me? The way I talk, the way I interact, the way my theories, etc. are. Well, that knowledge part is now pretty much in the Wikipedia kind of a thing. The actions I perform, etc. Can I have an avatar, a virtual actor which could be created, and I can model it, and then he or she, that virtual actor, starts teaching. Obviously, it will ultimately die, and the knowledge goes stale, when the knowledge is dead, and when knowledge is obsolete. After that, nobody's going to look at that wiki page, etc. But probably it can. So that was the motivation, and on that I started working on, can I have a virtual teacher? So we created a virtual teacher. We have created a virtual teacher. It's not exactly the model which I wanted, but it's somewhat a model which looks at the students, and based on that student's style and personality, it changes its roles. It also changes its roles of teaching, as it suggests that which role of the teacher should be there, and it suggests on runtime basis, it suggests, my time's over or what? Oh, so it keeps on suggesting that kind of a thing. So it does that. Next week, Samina Rajpur is going to defend her PhD on that, and she is going to be awarded on this. So we did this as well. So virtual avatar and virtual student. We tested this model on the students of virtual university, and we also tested this model on, sir, you probably may not be knowing, but we did a survey of alumni at Open University, so students as well, and we applied that model on physical students as well in a university set up on certain courses, teaching Pakistan studies, teaching mathematics, and teaching an introduction to computer science course. We tested that model, interesting results, various papers came out of that, and we were able to create that. But it's still far from my dream of creating a virtual teacher, or a virtual student. On the sensing environment kind of a domain, I thought that how can I make the world more active, making active but pervasive worlds, and at the same time the world is active and pervasive as well. So we worked on, can we create a smart agriculture, not through the sensors, but can we make this plant intelligent? Can the plant tell me, hey, I need water, I need fertilizer, I need this? So we thought that instead of we catching the data from the sensors about this, we want to make this something, intelligent. So that was the goal of that. AgriGrid was a project. It's one of the most well-read papers, and it's one of the most well-researched and paper and all that thing. And Akil Rahman, who is at Hamdard University, got a PhD in this area. Next was, can I then make vehicles also intelligent? Can I create a network of vehicles and mobile ad hoc networks? So we started working on that. Let's suppose there is a car which is going. It has already sensed that I'm in a traffic block. It generates a signal back to other cars, etc. The kind of a thing which now you see it in Google Traffic Map kind of a thing, which you now see it in Google Traffic Maps, etc. In 2008, I had Nauman Islam completing his PhD in this area. So we did that, and our ad hoc networks, etc. and protocols were well used and has been well researched and well referenced. Earthquake and disaster management was another thing. So there is Sahana, which is a software in the open source. We tried and we optimized that software and said that can we have something that if God forbid some disaster comes, can we do it? We gave this, we optimized that, and we had a disaster management system which we gave it to Provincial Disaster Management Authority. I don't know what is the status of that at the moment, but we do have now, and we are expanding and extending this kind of a project, and we are doing it for the mitigation and look at how floods come in Pakistan, how they destroy the whole thing. Can we have a semantic ontological representation model? And I think there is a paper on this in the conference. Hossein Mughal is doing his PhD in this area. Biovision hierarchy, I just told you about that, MQT arms, etc. So those were the areas. Then we talked about social interactions, as I said. I started working on the genetics side, and I said, something is there. This just like fractals in the mathematics. There's a pattern of a tree, and that pattern of tree is in the pattern of the leaf. So if you look at the leaf, it has the pattern of the tree. So I kept on wondering that we do have the genetic structure. So our genetic structure is there. Our genes do tell us many things about us, what we are, what we look like, even the diseases which we are going to have and carry with us probably in our cells and in our DNA structure, etc. So I said, let me see it, that can we have the humans, individual humans, can we consider them as separate genes? So you are a gene, so you are a gene, he is a gene, he is a gene. So all of us, can we go ahead and can we create communities on those genes? Shahab got the PhD, Shahab sitting over here is going to be the session chair also and all that. He got a PhD in this area of somehow they map social networks and genetics or not. So he got a PhD in that, and he had this. And then we started working on social networks. Can we use social networks as the recommender systems? Because there's a lot of air which goes out in the social networks. Inqilab, social networks tells us this thing. Did the Inqilab come or not? Biggest thing in the social network was Hillary Clinton is going to win. And I observed the presidential ceremony, not really on the television obviously, but I was in US on that day when Donald Trump took over. So social networks, can social networks give us the recommender systems? Can we inject a thought in the social networks and that kind of alters our thoughts and thought processes, etc. That's one of the areas on which we are working. But a motivation of that gave me an idea that we should have a context, we should understand the context in the system, social networks, and human-intensive systems, etc., need to be developed. So we worked on that, and maybe if you can click further, on the basis of that, click. So we identified the events in the social networks. So first our target was, can we identify an event? ये conference हो रही है, कहीं और हो रहा है, email पे कोई बातें हो रही है, भाई किसके सिलसिले में बातें हो रही है? यार ये बातें चल रही हैं, आजकल कहाँ बातें चल रही है? उस जलसे में बात चली है, उस जगह पे बात चली है. So we tried to identify the events. If we can identify events, that is the first step in modeling the context, etc. So Dr. Shaikh got a PhD in this area, another excellent area on which we have papers, etc. And it's one of the most, even we are interacting on this kind of a research with Google Research has taken up our queue in this area. Identifying and tagging human behaviors, that gave us the idea that we can probably tag human behaviors. So based on that, we had some of the projects. For example, we had this kind of a project on the cab, how and when we do a cab, etc. इसको फिर हमने बनाया और फिर इसको जो है ना हमने सेल कर दिया आइडिया, और अब अनकरीब आप कराची में देखेंगे ये आइडिया हमने सेल कर दिया. And we had a taxi service which is coming up, and probably those who know it from FAST, it is coming from a professor of FAST. Those who are at FAST, उनको पता है कि एक Islamic studies के professor ने इसको project को शुरू कर दिया. And there's a ladies taxis and the motorcycle taxi and the other car of a taxi, etc. So this modeling interactions, modeling privacy, modeling theological interpretations, हमने इसको भी मॉडल करने की कोशिश की. हमने सोचा कि क्या हम ट्रस्ट आपका एतबार क्या है, क्या इसको एतबार को मॉडल किया जा सकता है या नहीं किया जा सकता. So we started working on modeling of the trust also, and modeling the future interfaces for context and the generic websites, etc. So on the basis of that, we established ये बड़ा controversial project. इसको controversial हैसियत से न देखें, हमने ये सोचा कि हम तमाम schools of thoughts, etc. उनके लिए कोई हम ऐसी कोई कर सकते हैं, where we have social network at the same time. Can we have the fatwas which are coming up on that? Adnan Siddiqui is defending his PhD next month, inshallah, on this idea as well, on the tagging of the human behaviors, etc. On the area of governance, we looked at various e-governance frameworks, etc. And we looked at the United Nations models, etc. And various projects which we already had. And then that gave us to area SPAY B. There is another PhD which is coming up, and we have challenged certain United Nations indexes on the basis of this, that the governance, corruption, etc. kahan par jati. Coming up, closing now. So there's another PhD, Ashraf Wasim, who is doing his PhD. He's completed his PhD, in fact, in this area. Now, this is the least, I'm coming towards my almost second last slide and the last slide. So now I'm working on from emotions to attitude. Now this is where I need your neurons, more of it. So the context definition which we have adopted is the definition, it's the function, which is event, location on the time, and then event is nothing but actors interacting with certain artifacts, etc. So I always used to think that in the area of human-computer interaction, it's about the humans, it's about the computer. But then I have recently realized that interaction is not about humans and computers. It's about the third thing. There's yet another human. Computer to gum ho jayega. Computer to gum ho jayega. How we are going to interact with each other. Still, will we be still friends? Will we have alternate lifestyles? Will we have two personalities, one on the computer and the other on this thing? So I started working on emotions and attitudes. So emotions, so there are triggered events, human to computer state. I'm sorry you can't really read it, but it's basically human to computer state. It's a triggered event. अभी आपको एकदम जो है मैं झटका देता हूँ कोई खतरनाक किस्म का, आपका emotion को भी trigger करेगा. Supposing if I have the grades in my hand, आप सबको F देता हूँ. So you have an emotion which is a triggered event based on certain thing. That's emotion. And the next thing which comes up is this, that there is a contextual prolonged state. उस contextual prolonged state is something which is called as sentiment. So that is computer to human. Unfortunately, it is not properly clear. But and then there is जब कुछ prolonged state, जब एक से दिन से ज़्यादा हो जाती है, 2 दिन हो गए, आप नाराज़ हैं, परेशान हो रहे हैं, so that changes into a behavior kind of a thing. आप हर वक्त गुस्से में हैं, माँ बाप पूछेंगे, क्यों भाई गुस्से में क्यों हो? आज क्यों नाराज हुए हो? क्या है तुम्हारे साथ मसला क्या है? तुम तो हर वक्त क्यों ही होते हो? So that alters our behavior. Now this changes into human interactions. हर एक से लड़ रहा है, इनसे भी लड़ूंगा, क्यों 5 मिनट मुझे बोले यार, 3 मिनट मैं नहीं करूँगा. So I enter into this kind of a thing. So I'm going to fight with him, I'm going to fight with him, I'm going to fight with you. That's human behavior because he triggered my emotion. Well, ठीक है. So that's something that's related to human behavior. So the next thing comes is human behavior that changes in human interactions and prolonged states. But that's a computer to human problem. And the fourth stage which comes is probably that changes our genetic things. Probably changes in the genetic हमारी society को affect करता है. Corruption a part of us है. अब हमें किसी को mind नहीं करते. Traffic light को तोड़ देना क्या है यार, इसमें कौन सा गुनाह है यार? रश में खामखा रेड लाइट दे देते, देखते नहीं है हम लोगों को जल्दी है. So that has become part of our genetic kind of a thing. खड्डे को हम खड्डा नहीं समझेंगे, किचड़े को किचड़ा नहीं समझेंगे, जहाँ बूढ़ा गिरा दिया unless कोई कैमरा में देख रहा हो. So human interaction problems. Now that is attitude. So from emotion to small box से लेकर मैं अब attitudes की तरफ जा रहा हूँ. क्या ऐसे attitudes है जिससे हमारी society में तनज़्ज़ुली आई है? क्या हुआ है जिसकी वजह से हम गिर गए हैं? क्या is there any technological thing which we can bring back and revive this society? Is there something which we can do really? क्या हम Islamic society लेकर आ सकते हैं? क्या हम दूसरी society लेकर आ सकते हैं? क्या होगा उनका impact? That is what I call sustainable human computing perspective, where basically there are beliefs and values,